Hi there, I'm Amy of the Awakening Design, and I am so excited that you're here. Welcome to my free training, 3 Steps to Creating Better Relationships in 2022. I want to take a second and acknowledge your dedication to your life and the energy that you're putting forth to improve your relationships and create the life that you want. Making choices to take time out of our already busy schedule to educate ourselves empowers us in so many ways. And I know that you're going to see the benefit of this in a lot of different areas in your life. I'm a radical self-compassion and joy coach, and my mission is to help people uncover and empower their uniqueness by leaning into self-awareness and self-understanding. Because once we know who we are at the deepest level, we can align with those energies to create the life that we want and flow rather than struggle. So that's a little bit about me and what I do. What do you say we get into this training? Again, welcome to 3 Steps to Creating Better Relationships in 2022. Here's a little quote from me about relationships. We get to choose what we want in each of our relationships to create a fulfilling life. And that's so empowering. Relationships are our greatest teacher in this experience. And relationships are mirrors. And it's through other people that we can really start to understand ourselves, our gifts and strengths, and our weaknesses. Every single person on this planet deserves healthy relationships, and that is a fact. But what healthy means to each person can look different because we are all infinitely unique. But the crux of a healthy relationship is always one that's based in mutual respect and clear communication. And every person is so wildly unique. And I've studied spiritual principles and modalities for 12 years. And this fact becomes more and more pronounced with everything that I learn. But we live in a world that is wildly homogenized. And we're all asked every single day to fit into these little boxes or these little molds. But when we start actually honoring our own and everyone else's uniqueness and individuality, everything, especially relationships, start to make so much more sense. So let's go ahead and get into these steps, okay? Step number 1, acknowledge that you deserve healthy relationships. And yes, I'm talking to you. It doesn't matter what your past has been like, what your previous relationships have been like, the family dynamic that you grew up in, or how you've interacted in the past. Every single person deserves to have healthy relationships. And this is what we deserve, but that doesn't mean that that's what we get. In fact, no one on the planet has only healthy relationships. That's just not a thing, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it. Even a recluse living alone in the mountains, you can bet that the relationship that he has with himself is one that he has to work on every single day. And nobody gets healthy relationships, all healthy relationships, but unhealthy relationships and unhealthy relationship patterns are actually here to help us because they serve as teaching tools so that we can better understand ourselves and the world around us. But even if we did grow up in unhealthy relationships with unhealthy relationship patterns, and we're really comfortable in the dysfunction that those things bring, we have to stop dismissing unhealthy relationship patterns or toxic patterns as healthy. And this is really important because a lot of us have grown up with different forms of emotional abuse or emotional manipulation at the very least. And so it's just very much what we're used to. It's our normal. And it's our responsibility as people who are growing and developing spiritually to really start to identify patterns and behaviors that are unhealthy, because living with these kind of patterns actually does something very deep to us that keeps us apart from the greatness that we inherently are. And we're going to get so far deep into that here in just a second. We hear a lot about healthy relationships and how to create them and what they look like. But what isn't really discussed is why relationships are so vitally important. Why is it important that our relationships are as healthy as they can possibly be? And it goes so much more deeper than, because we want to live peacefully and happily and because, we want to enjoy each other's company. It's so much deeper than that. And I'm going to share why and what that is right now. The reason that it's so vitally important is because at a very fundamental, deep level, how we allow other people to interact with us actually reflects how we treat and feel about ourselves. And this is so huge. And just take a second for this to really integrate and notice any feelings that might come up. Is there resistance to this statement? Are you hearing a voice of, oh, that's not true. How I let so-and-so treat me doesn't really have anything to do with how I feel about myself. Or does it kind of resonate with you? Does it ring true for you? The reason that this is true and how it's true is that if we allow or are okay with other people treating us poorly, 99% of the time, it's because we don't believe that we deserve to be treated otherwise. And I'm going to give you an example outside of relationships, because what we allow is what we believe that we deserve. And we actually teach other people how to treat us. So here's an example. Okay. Say that you were contracted to do a project that was $100,000 over the course of 6 months, and you put in the work, you busted your butt, you really poured your heart and soul into this project for this person that hired you. And the time came and you submitted your work and you waited for your payment. And days went by, weeks went by. You followed up with some phone calls, you followed up with some emails. A month went by, 2 months went by, and nothing. You did not hear anything back from these people. If you have self-worth and self-value, and you believe that you deserve that $100,000 that you were contracted to receive, you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that that's what you receive. No less, no more, but what was agreed upon, you're going to actually demand, even up until the point of getting maybe some legal counsel and getting a lawyer involved. Now, say that the opposite is true, and you have some doubts about the quality of the work that you gave. Maybe you're not really sure that you deserve that much money. Maybe subconsciously you're having some resistance to receiving that kind of abundance. There's a better chance that you actually aren't going to go after that money that is actually owed to you. You're not going to go the extra mile to make sure that you receive that and actually demand that, even by bringing in the law. And I give this example because when we know what we are worth, we're willing to ask for it. If we have questions, if we're uncertain or unsure about what we deserve, we're much more likely to give and take, and for there to be less firm boundaries around how we allow ourselves to be treated. So when we believe that we actually deserve healthy relationships, we go after them. We're not afraid to ask for what we need in the context of a relationship. Alrighty. So the very first step in creating better relationships in 2022 is acknowledging that you deserve healthy relationships. So let's keep it moving on to step number 2. And that is to learn to identify unhealthy or toxic behavior patterns. Now, not every aspect of every relationship is going to be healthy or untoxic. That would be extremely rare, because why would you say in a relationship that was 100% toxic? But within every relationship, there are going to be little or big things that can be healed, that can be adjusted towards the health of that relationship. Because relationships are dynamic, they're ever changing. Things that worked in a relationship 3 years ago may not actually work today. And so we need to be constantly adapting and changing ourselves and being aware of what to look for within a relationship when we're thinking about unhealthy or toxic patterns. And there is one tool that I really love to use whenever I'm evaluating the different relationships that I have. Every year or so, I like to really go through my relationships and really look at them, look at the positive aspects, look at the negative aspects, think about where I want to go in this relationship, things that are working, and be really intentional because I understand that relationships are so important. They are such a huge blessing in our growth and development. And they're such a gift to be shared between two people, right? So there's one tool that I really like to use if I'm kind of getting the feeling that maybe there might be something that isn't quite balanced or isn't quite where I want it to be. And I'm going to share that tool with you now. Whenever I'm looking at one of these relationships, I ask myself, how do I feel in this relationship at any given time? Okay. Because how we feel in a relationship at any given time is an absolutely beautiful indicator of how healthy the relationship is for us. Let me give you some examples about this. Okay. So when I think about my relationship with my best friend, Cheryl, I feel that I'm supported, that I'm loved, that I'm seen for who I am. If there ever was an issue that I would need to bring to her, I would feel secure in the fact that she would listen to me, she would hear me out, and that she would have an open heart around whatever I was saying. Now, that's not true for all of my relationships, but with Cheryl, I know that because of these things, we have a pretty healthy communication style and a pretty healthy relationship. When I am on my way to go see Cheryl, I feel uplifted. I feel excited to be able to have commune with her and to just be in her general presence. However, there are people in my life who, when I'm on my way to see them, I might feel anxious. I might feel nervous or trepidatious. I might feel like, oh, I'm going to have to walk on eggshells, or I'm going to have to overlook some rude things that are going to be said to me. And I may not feel secure. I may not feel safe. And those are huge, huge indicators of the status of my relationship with that person, the health of my relationship with that person, because we already know, like we talked about, right? Step number one, we all deserve healthy relationships. And if that's not happening, if my relationship with someone is not healthy, then it's my responsibility to do what I need to do in order to heal that. So the goal for all relationships is for them to be healthy for us, because remember, we are all unique. And so what is healthy within one relationship may not be healthy within another relationship. And that's just one of the ways that relationships are so complex and juicy and deep and delicious. But feeling safe and secure within a relationship is so important. And in all honesty, feeling safe and secure within a relationship is really non-negotiable. It's the bare minimum for a healthy relationship. And if we are dealing with an unhealthy relationship that does not make us feel safe and secure, we have to ask ourselves a couple of questions and really dig deep and look inside as to why we feel uncomfortable within the relationship. Is it something that we personally need to work on that really has nothing to do with them? Or is it something that is very interpersonal and is an issue that needs to be addressed with that other person? For example, one of the best ways to really determine where your relationship with someone lies is if you do have an issue with them, are you able to, with love, compassion, kindness, and respect, bring that issue to them and be received in an open-hearted and at least respectful way? And a lot of times, there's a lot of fear and anxiety around even healthy confrontation. And when we have that fear, when we have that anxiety, none of us really wants to stir the pot. That's not necessarily something that a lot of us were raised to enjoy, but some people love it, and that's cool. But a lot of us, we're not taught to be pot stirrers. We were taught to be the get along girls and the get along boys who kind of like make things easier for other people. And so bringing something to someone and possibly having a confrontation, even if that is healthy, can be kind of anxiety inducing for a lot of us. And if we have an issue with someone in a relationship and we feel the need to bring something to their attention and we're feeling anxious about it, this can tell us a lot about our relationship. But before we make any conclusions on that score, we have to ask ourselves 2 questions, okay? So let's talk about what those 2 questions are. The first question is, am I avoiding, or does this conversation make me anxious because I've already tried to talk to this person in the past and they blew up at me, or they gaslit me, or they didn't respect me, they poo-pooed me, they disregarded what I had to say, and now, I know what to expect, and I really don't want to repeat that experience, okay? That's one question to ask. And if that's the case, then there's an issue in the relationship, in the interpersonal relationship that needs to be healed within the dynamics of how the 2 of you communicate. The second option is, am I fearful of this conversation because I'm afraid to speak up in general? And I tend to use avoidance tactics to keep drama at bay. And if it's the second one, that has nothing to do with the other person or their capacity to respect you or be in relation with you. That has to do with internal fear and generally a lack of self-worth and a lack of self-compassion. And what we need to do is refer back to step number 1 that says that we need to acknowledge that we all deserve healthy relationships and that we can stand in our power and speak our truth to the people that we are in relationship with without fear, because we are valuable and deserve healthy relationships that work for us as well as the other person. Now, every relationship is going to rub you the wrong way at one point or another. Again, relationships help us grow, and there is no growth without friction. But this is where it's vitally important to know who you are, because so many of us are running around unaware of who we are energetically, what we bring to the table, and how we're actually affecting others by just being us. But when we know ourselves deeply and we see clearly who we are, we can navigate relationships so much better because we can easily differentiate what's our own stuff and has nothing to do with the other person and what is an interpersonal issue. And the most important relationship that we can possibly ever have is the relationship that we have with ourselves and the understanding that we have of ourselves. Okay, so step number 1, we're going to acknowledge that we deserve healthy relationships. Yes, we do. Number 2, we're going to learn how to identify unhealthy and toxic behavior patterns. And now, ready for number 3. Number 3, we're going to create and communicate healthy boundaries. Whenever we set about establishing boundaries, we must approach the situation with these 4 keys, okay? Kindness, compassion, love, and respect. And I know I've already alluded to these, but they are so important because when you come to any interaction with these things, you're going to open up productive and heart-centered communication. Almost every time. And if not, then at least you know that you've come to the situation from the right position and that you're keeping your side of the street clean, which is very, very important. Communication is absolutely fundamental, and other people can't read our thoughts. So unless we express ourselves clearly, there's always room for misinterpretation. And this is so important because if we want things to change, we have to directly and clearly communicate that to other people, not through emotional manipulation, not through passive aggressive conversations and communications, but with an open heart, directly tell the person what we want and what we need from the relationship. And 9 times out of 10, they are more than happy to give it to you because they've already invested so much in this relationship that they have with you. And most people want to engage in a healthy relationship with you and understand that in order to do that, they do have a part to play. So sharing our feelings with anybody does put us in a place of vulnerability, and that can be so scary. But not sharing our wants and our needs and our feelings puts us in a place of being disempowered, which is so much worse. As we already know, we teach people how to treat us, and how we allow other people to treat us is really a reflection of what we feel about ourselves. So every time we allow people to mistreat us or treat us in a way that isn't acceptable to us, we're programming in our mind that that is what we deserve and that we don't deserve healthy, happy relationships. And this manifests itself in all different aspects of our lives, because if you don't deserve to be treated with respect, it follows that you may not deserve to have the other goals and dreams that you want. And our subconscious mind is constantly running and actually creating more of our reality than what our conscious mind is. And so it's so important to just make sure that we are standing in integrity when it comes to programming our subconscious with the actions that we're actually taking in life. Okay? Okay, so building boundaries does not at all have to be this big dramatic event. There doesn't have to be like a big come to Jesus moment. There doesn't have to be like this long dramatic thing. It can be really, really simple. And by all means, sometimes you absolutely need to sit down with someone and have something that is a little bit more serious and a little bit more powerful and intentional. But for the most part, as long as you come to the situation with love, compassion, kindness, and respect, things are going to go well. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to say that the method of delivery does not matter. You can text them, you can call them, you can audio message them, you can email them, you can have the conversation face to face. The method doesn't matter. It's what you choose to communicate. And there are some people who might try to discount your words because of the method that you choose. They may say, well, I don't like to talk about this kind of stuff via email, so I'm not going to read your email, or I'm not going to read your text. And what they're actually saying is that they don't respect you and they don't respect your preferred means of communication, because we're all wildly different. And everybody has a different strength when it comes to the way that they communicate and their communication style. For me, I'm a writer. I like to write things out. I can organize things. I can make sure everything is nice and clear and concise. Having a face-to-face conversation, especially if I'm bringing something forward that might be a difficult conversation, is anxiety inducing for me personally. So my mind may not be able to communicate things as concisely as if I were to be able to write an email or even a text. So just keep that in mind. If somebody isn't willing to accept your means of communication as valid, they're actually saying that what you have to say isn't valid, and that they may not care to hear what you have to say. And that's not your fault at all. But we always have to remember that the most important thing is that we teach others how to treat us. And through that, we reinforce our own belief that we deserve healthy relationships. So if someone isn't able to accept you at the level that you're bringing yourself, there are much deeper issues in the relationship than just that you chose to send a text. So just keep that in mind. There are rare occasions when someone completely refuses to give you what you need in a relationship, and that can be so tough. But remember that their behavior is not a reflection of what you deserve. It's actually a reflection of their own capacity. I mentioned before that the most important relationship we can have is the one that we have with ourselves. And we are so wildly complex. And so many of us are running around without a proper understanding of who we are, what our energetic offering is, how we are affecting the world around us, or how to use our uniqueness to get the results that we want. And this is the very first place to start. Understanding who we are makes relationships with others infinitely easier. But we do have to acknowledge the fact that we live in a really homogenized world that wants to fit all of us into different boxes, but everybody's unique. And so nobody's going to fit perfectly into a single box. And we are being called to rethink how we do relationships. And many of us are realizing that we need to navigate them differently. And the secret is honoring and acknowledging each other's individuality and uniqueness, which creates a clear slate for us to lower our defenses, to wipe away any preconceived notions or expectations about how this person is supposed to act based on how I act, because we're all different. And when we allow people to sink into their uniqueness and live as they truly are, we are giving them such an invaluable gift. And to be on the receiving end of that gift is something that is truly out of this world spectacular. I'm a firm believer that all of the power that we have inherently lies in our uniqueness. And when we pretend to be someone else or try to fit into somebody else's mold, all of that goes away. And that's really sad and really discouraging. So, as we start at square one and start looking inward, here's some questions we can ask ourselves around who we are in relationships. Okay. Who am I in relationships? How am I showing up? What energy am I bringing to the table? What is my communication style? And is it even effective? So many times when we get into this work, we realize, you know what? I actually have a little bit of a passive aggressive communication style, or I actually can be a little bit emotionally manipulative in my communication style when I need something from someone. And that can really stink to realize about ourselves, but it's so important to have that level of self-awareness. And even being able to see that is such a goal and such an accomplishment, because once we see it, then we can change it, right? And that's literally what this is all about. It's all about transformation. I can give you all the information in the world, but if it's not applicable, if you can't put it into practice to transform, then really, what is the point? As we're contemplating these questions, who I am in relationships, how am I showing up, what energy am I bringing to the table, what is my communication style, and is it even effective? I want to pose an even bigger question. How well do you know your true self? When we know who we truly are and align with our unique energies rather than guessing or trying to fit into some kind of societal mold, we're able to tap into our inherent power and create our lives from a place of authenticity and flow. If you are facing difficult relationships right now, your first instinct may be to look outwards to try to fix them. But I want to challenge that instinct in you right now, because looking outside at our relationships and trying to fix them from there is like taking the long way around. If we really want to see changes in our relationships, we need to look first at who we are on an energetic level and become deeply familiar and intimate with that person. Like I've mentioned, I've studied many practices and modalities over the course of 12 years. And the best tool for discovering who you are energetically that I have found for the most transformation is human design. Human design is an amalgam of scientific and spiritual teachings that assess our energetic composition and how those energies interact with our environment at large. This system is based on epigenetics, biochemistry, quantum physics, astrology, the Hindu chakra system, the Judaic Kabbalah, and the Chinese I Ching. So it's really beautiful because it's all of these different systems and teachings and sciences that come together that point to one fundamental truth, and that is our divine uniqueness and all of the power that comes from that. I like to compare human design to an instruction manual outlining who you are, how you show up to others, information about your inherent gifts and tendencies and propensities, and where shadow aspects can tend to creep in. This text even shows you the general theme of your life's purpose and passions, and also, and this is the most transformational tool, in my personal opinion, in the system of human design, the best and most reliable way for you to make decisions. Big decisions, small decisions, all by tuning in to the intricate energies that are coming through us. And it's so powerful and so intense and so accurate. It's beautiful. So just imagine how much more intentionally you could approach every area of your life, especially relationships, with this kind of insight. It is truly, truly life-changing. Once we begin to honor and support who we truly are and we're created to be as vastly unique individuals, stepping into our power and creating the experience that we want is not only easier, but it's unstoppable. It's inevitable. It is fate. Because once we shed our need and our desire to be somebody else and to not honor who we actually are and who we were created to be, absolute magic happens. Manifestation magic happens because we're in line with our own energies and how we were created, and the universe responds to that. And I've seen it happen with so many of my clients, so many of my fellow students, and so many people who have adapted this system have just seen their life explode in the most magnificent ways. And it's all because we start living as our true self, who we were designed to be. Because if you're a zebra, okay, but you're trying to live your life as a dolphin, it's never gonna work. You're never gonna self-actualize. Life is gonna be so hard for you and it's gonna be so frustrating. But when you acknowledge and honor the fact that you are a zebra and you're out here on these plains running around and like living your life as who you are, a zebra, things get so much easier. It makes so much sense. And I know that analogy is a little bit silly, but fundamentally, that makes so much sense. Being who you actually are is so much easier than being who you think you might be, or who you were taught to be, or who your parents told you to be, or who you want to be. It's just so transformational. And it's just so exciting to see when my clients really understand it and start to apply this information. So if you want to gain a deeper understanding of who you are in relationships to create deeper and healthier connections, you want to align to your unique energies to honor and empower your special gifts, and you want to live as your authentic self and interact with the world around you like you were created and designed to do, I would love, love, love to invite you to join me for an intuitive human design reading. In this 90-minute live human design reading, we're going to go over the basics of human design and the fundamentals so you have a beautiful frame of reference, and then dive into the intricacies of your chart. And the phenomenal thing and just amazing thing about human design is that no two people on the planet have the same chart. We are all so wildly, like I keep saying, different. And this really shines a spotlight on how. In this reading, I will help you better understand your own life force energy, your gifts, propensities, powers, tendencies, and how you show up in the world around you. Relationships are the greatest gift that we can possibly receive in this life, and the most challenging thing that we have to really figure out. And during this session, I will run a chart detailing the energetics of a relationship between you and one other person. And this can bring immense clarity around what to expect in that relationship and how to work together to have the best, most heart-centered relationship possible. It's really powerful. It's really great, like I was talking about, to gather information, but unless that information has the power to transform your life into what you want it to be, it's not worth very much. And I promise you that if you lean in, this will create a different reality for you, period. And it's so powerful that I want to make sure that you have the support that you need. So for 7 days after our session together, you can message me with questions that you have and all of the juicy aha moments that you're inevitably going to get. Because like I said, it is life changing. Relationships are absolutely our greatest teacher in this human experience. And the most important relationship that you will ever have is the one that you have with yourself, which is why it's so important for you to truly, truly, deeply, and intimately understand who you are, how you show up, and what your energies are. So let's go ahead and recap the 3 steps to creating better relationships in 2022. Step 1, you're going to acknowledge that you deserve healthy relationships. Yes, you. Everyone on the planet does, but that's definitely not what our experience is. And so it's our responsibility to take a look at our relationships and set the intention to make each relationship as healthy as it can possibly be. Step number 2, we're going to learn to identify unhealthy or toxic behavior patterns. And we are going to, step 3, create and communicate healthy boundaries. And we're going to do this by approaching each interaction with love, kindness, compassion, and respect. Understanding and honoring your uniqueness and who you are energetically is the most important step and supersedes these 3 steps that we have talked about today in creating better relationships. And I would love to support you in this journey. And I am so looking forward to supporting you on this journey that has the power to absolutely change your life. Thank you so much for attending 3 Steps to Creating Better Relationships in 2022. The most empowering thing about relationships is that we get to choose what we want in each of our relationships to create a fulfilling life. I'm Amy Titus of The Awakening Design, and I cannot wait to hear from you that you are wanting to accept this offer of the Intuitive Human Design reading, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.